Well, here we are. Christmas is done. I hope you had a good one. I hope you enjoyed your days. It's the day after Boxing Day, so I didn't waste any time, did I? But we're going to do these videos for the tutorial for the beanie. And I've got the pattern by me so I can refer to it. Not that I need to because I can remember it, but just to double check. And also I've had a slight change of the yarn, because when I put the yellow and the pink together, the yellow was quite deep and it meant you couldn't see the pink. So that's the yellow, and if you put the pink against that, if you do it like that, you can see it, but when you put the two strands together, you mainly get the yellow. So I swapped it out and got the lemon out, which is the one I'm going to use, and that is much better for picking up the colours. The pink doesn't get lost in the yarn. Okay, so I'm going to start by casting on. Now I probably cast on completely different to most of you, but it's the way I've learned, and it gives me a nice secure cast on to work on. And the other thing I do, what I do is measure out the yarn. I reckon that will be about 72 stitches. So I measure it out like that and make my loop, and then I use a bigger needle than my size 6 needles that I'm going to knit with. That way the casting on doesn't end up being too tight. I'll show you I'll show you what I mean when we put it together, and I can match it against one of the previous beanies. Okay, so there's my first one. So now we've just got to do 72 of these, and I do a few, I'll show you in a bit, I do a few with the end on that side, and then when I've got those sorted, what I do is swap them over and bring that over this way, because then I'm using less of this yarn and more of that is coming from the two balls of yarn that are on the side there. So let's just see how quickly I can get these 72 stitches done. I will have to count at the end, because normally I'll count it through as I'm going, but because I'm talking to all of you, I haven't. So how did you all get on over Christmas? Did you all have a good time? Did anybody actually knit or crochet on Christmas Day? I don't think I did I, Phil?
No,
No.
not at all.
Christmas Day and Boxing Day, I didn't do any knitting or crochet. I gave myself a holiday. So there we go. But I'm back with a vengeance now. And I was working on the baby blanket this morning. I looked at it and thought, that's odd. That doesn't look right. And realised that halfway along a cream row, before I started doing the peach, I'd managed to turn myself round and go back again. So when I added the peach, I'd got 6 rows underneath one end and only 4 rows under the other. So I've had to take that back. And I've got the cream done. I'm just going to start on the peach again for that. But I'll show you that another day. So this takes a little while because it's a lot of stitches. So if you want to go and make a cup of tea, feel free. I'll still be here when you get back.
Okay, I'll go and make one.
Okay. So you have to make sure that the yarns don't tangle too much as well while you're doing it, because they're going from 2 separate balls. The other way of doing this, of course, is if you want to do it with chunky yarn, you would only need 1 thread rather than 2. But this is how I cast on, and I know some people find it strange. I used to cast on with 2 needles, I then cast on with one needle and the yarn, and I then learnt to do this way, which sort of, it's almost like knitting the first row, and it gives you a firmer cast on row. At least I think so. So let's move those stitches down. When we come to knit, of course, it will be a lot easier because the stitches will be bigger than the needle on the first row, which will make it easy to knit, but it will also mean that the casting on is slightly looser than it would normally be. Right, we're coming up towards the end here. I feel like I'm in a race here to get to the end, but hey ho, here we go.
There's something for thought, a crocheting match, so you can crochet something the fastest.
Well, everybody works at their own speed, Phil, and sometimes if you try and work too fast, you end up making a mess.
Oh.
And then have to take it all out. I'm just going to check how many stitches I've actually got, but you can see there now the pink and the lemon both show up quite nicely, whereas when I did a practice run with this, the yellow just completely dominated it, so you couldn't pick out the pink so much. Bear with me while I count. I've actually got too many stitches on there, unless I've counted wrong, but there we go. Right, so I've got quite a long tail, but that's okay, because at the end I'll show you what I do with the tail. When I've stitched it in a bit, I cut the rest off and use it to attach my little cards. I'll show you that at the end. Right, so now we're on to the first row, and all the rows are the same, but this is where we bring in the number 6 needles instead of the bigger one. Okay, and another thing I do is the first and last stitch on every row I knit into the back. Don't ask me why, it just seems to give me a nicer edge while I'm knitting. So we're knitting 2 and purling 2 all the way to the end. So you might want to go and make another cup of tea because this is where it gets a bit possibly a little bit boring for you, but I'll do my best to keep you entertained. So what did you do for Christmas? Christmas Day, Phil and I were on the radio in the morning because we run a radio station as well, and we did our radio show, and then we opened our gifts, and then we went for a drive, which we do on Christmas Day. We started doing this during the pandemic, and we go out quite far, and we take it in turns to pick where we're going, and this year it was my turn, so I decided to do something different. Now, I don't know whether you've heard the phrase that you're going all around the Wrekin to get somewhere. Well, I know where the Wrekin is, sort of. So I decided we were going to go all round the Wrekin on our drive. And Phil was trying to guess where we were going, and he actually didn't guess until he saw the Wrekin on a signpost to say it was a mile away. And we drove around the Wrekin, and then we drove through some pretty little villages of Little Wenlock and Much Wenlock before heading home. So I can genuinely say now that I have been all around the Wrekin, even though it's just a saying. And Phil didn't know the saying either, so.
I did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, of course I did.
Oh, I didn't know you did, but there
What we're
you go.
going to do next year is climb the Wrekin.
Well, yes, I thought I might be able to drive to the top, but you can't. But there was loads of people there, weren't there, Phil?
Oh yeah.
There was
Very
cars
busy.
parked. I couldn't park anywhere where I thought I might, because it was chock full of cars and people were all setting off, going and walking up the Wrekin. So I suppose that's something we might get to do during the summer. I don't know whether I'll be able to climb to the top of the Wrekin. It's quite a long walk, isn't it?
It is.
I might sit at the bottom and do my knitting.
While I walk
While
to the
you
top.
walk up and back. And then that'll be somewhere else I can say I've done some knitting.
Yeah, but you need to be at the top of it doing your knitting.
I know, but I don't think
That's
I can
to
get
the
up
effect.
there. Not unless they can get a chairlift up there, and then I can do it.
I'll carry on my shoulders.
Oh, Phil, you wouldn't.
No, you're right, I wouldn't.
You'd be on your knees after about 50 yards. But there you go. Right, so we're coming up towards the end of this row. Okay, so you can see here, it's knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, all the way along. And then we're on knit 2. And when we get to the end, because it's 72 stitches, it's still purl. It's purl 2 at the end. And if you want to do a bigger hat or a smaller hat, you have to remember to increase by 4 stitches or decrease by 4 stitches. So you've still got your purl 2 at the end of the row, so that your rows still look the same. Okay, because all the rows on this beanie, until we get to the decreasing at the top, are knit 2 and purl 2. So I'm just getting to the purl 2, and as I said, the last stitch I always knit into the back. There we go. And then we turn it round, and don't want that one, do I? Because that will be way too big. Get the other one out, and we're back to knit 2, purl 2. And I'll do this row for you so that you can see, it sets the stitches for you, and you can see where we're going to, and you can see how nicely the yarn shows up, actually, the two colours, being pink and lemon rather than pink and the yellow. The pink is quite pale, even though it doesn't look as pale in the cake there, but never mind. And then before I come back tomorrow, I will do the 21 centimeters that you have to do for a normal beanie, so that we can come back and I can show you, because this is all it is knit 2, purl 2 all the way up for 21 centimeters. And then I can show you the first row of the decrease and the few rows that come after that, and explain how it works. Okay, and if you've got any questions about the start, I mean, if you want to cast on your own way, then obviously do. You don't have to cast on the same way I do, the same as you don't have to knit into the back of the first and last stitch like I do. Those are just things that I've got into the habit of doing, and for me it works. You know, if it doesn't work for you, then you do it your own way. That's the whole thing with knitting and crochet. You get into your own rhythm, you get into your own way of doing things, and you do what's right for you. There's not really a right or wrong way. It's just whatever way you're comfortable with. Right, so talk amongst yourselves. I'll be with you in a minute. We're coming up to the end of the row. And I always start from a ball of yarn or a cake of yarn. I always start from the middle. And people keep advertising these bowls with curly bits in so that you can stop your yarn rolling about. Well, my yarn's not rolling about. Even if it's an ordinary ball from a shop, it still doesn't roll about if you start it from the middle. My friend who runs a wool shop said some yarns you're supposed to do it from the outside, but I've not found a yarn yet that I've had to do it from the outside, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Saves me having to run around the floor looking for my yarn, a ball of yarn that's rolled under the table or under the chair. Right, so there we are. That's the first 2 rows done, and you can see that the cast on row is nice and flexible. It's not too tight. On the one that I've done before, that came a bit tighter. And the 2 yarns show up quite nicely on there. You've got your pinks showing up there and the lemon. And as it goes, sometimes the pink will show more, sometimes the lemon will show more. And that will make a nice tweedy colour. That's a bit of a big stitch. There you go, that shows it. Nice. Pull that out, okay. So there we go. That's the beanie started. Okay, and then you carry on and you do 21 centimetres of knit 2, purl 2, all the way up. Okay, so I'm going to go away and do those and then come back tomorrow and we'll start on the decrease and you can see how they go. As I told you, I think a while ago, these beanies in total take about 4.5 hours to knit. So they don't take a long time, but rather than you sitting there watching me knit 2, purl 2, I'll go away and do those, and then you can come back tomorrow and see how we get on with the decreasing. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.